Here it is, springtime going into summer, and you're probably thinking, should I start a garden? Every time you go to the grocery store, even, or to the hardware store, you probably see a bunch of plant starts and you think, is this for me? Do I have room for this? How do I even start? How much is it going to cost me? And I'm here to tell you that if you have a desire to garden, you can do it for darn near free. So come on with me. If you're like me, one of the first things you want to do to learn about gardening is collect as many beautiful books that you can that shows what is possible out there. But if you're like me also, you will see that these can be overwhelming, although very helpful, because you see beautiful setups where there is raised bed gardens and landscaping, and all these things cost money. You and I both know it. And nothing's wrong with this, but if you want to start out and dip your toes in, you can't get caught up in daydreams, and you can't get caught up in education either. I was inspired to make this video by this book called One Magic Square by Lola Hubin. And per her story, she grew up during World War II. She was a teenager, and she almost starved to death from lack of food during the war. And she is very passionate about taking back your food security, and you can do it in just one magic square, which for her is the 3-foot square garden. So I wanted to show you how you can create that for yourself for free. And there is so much wisdom in this book. I highly recommend you check this out from your library, or get it on Kindle Unlimited, because it is free on there. I'm going to make you a list of everything that you're going to need to get started on this journey. So first of all, you're going to need 2 hands, and you're going to need to be okay with them getting dirty. Since you've already committed to getting dirty and doing the work, you're going to need some tools. Now, you don't need a whole bunch. I highly recommend having just a regular shovel and a fork, a big fork. And it's also handy to have a nice little trowel and one of these little fork tools. Don't know the name. But both of these are handy dandy, gardening 101 tools. And so I know you're thinking, Claire, you said this is for free. Tools are far from free. They are anywhere between $30 and $50. Well, I'm going to tell you, my friends, if you're willing to look for them, you can find them for free and possibly cheap. The free option is look in your local area for a tool library where you can check out tools for specific periods of times for free. And the second option for free is, we all have friends and family that have messy garages, that picked up a hobby once and didn't get to it like they wanted to. So you can ask around and say, hey, I'm just trying to start a garden, and these are some tools that I need. Do you have any that I could borrow for a little bit? And they're more likely going to let you have them or borrow them. So either way, this one specifically came from the Dollar Tree. So this was $1.50. It's not the best, but it does work for when I need it. Also, you can go on things like OfferUp. See if you can find some of these from an estate sale for real cheap. I saw some yesterday in my area for about $5 to $8 per giant, nice piece of tool. They were older, but they will work for what you need them. And thirdly, which should have probably been first, is you need to have a small patch of land to turn this into what you'd like it to be. So you need 3 square feet. This is 3 feet right here. As you can see, that's all it is this way. That's all it is this way. And then here we go, right behind me. I fit into this spot. That's all you need. So then here's the part that gets you deciding if you want to do this or not. You got to have a little grit, have a little graft, and get to work. Full disclosure, I did not get this area completed today, but I got a pretty darn close to it. I just wanted to illustrate for you how quickly you can work in this area. I just happened to have a little one that was napping and I couldn't stay and finish. But you get the drift. This is what it takes to just clear out this 3x3 space. And then the next step we'll go over is going to be all about enriching your earth and soil. All right, let's talk about compost for a minute. So this is a thing that can get expensive if you're buying it by the bag, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's the healthiest just because you're buying it at the store. But if you're wanting to make it yourself, that's kind of a lengthy process, but you can always get started whenever, and this is the perfect time because if you still have some, browns, which is, leaves that you didn't rake up that you want to put in there. You've got your greens, which is, grass clippings. And then you want to add in things. You can even add in like bits of cardboard and your organic material from, your fruits and vegetables, your chopping your dinner, whatever you didn't finish. And if you are so blessed, I have chickens. So whenever I clean out their coop, I have chicken droppings to add in to let that break down as well. But that takes a while to break down. You might be able to look out and look on something like OfferUp and just look up compost. And I have seen multiple listings for free compost that has been already aged and is ready to go in the garden. People just need to get it out of their yard, off of their farm. If you've got containers, if you've got a truck, you can go get it yourself. So always be on the lookout for things like that. If you have friends who have rabbits, if you have friends who have chickens and they have a lot and they don't know what to do with it, just ask. That is like my number one tip from this video. If you haven't picked up, just ask. So you're gonna hear about mulch, and well, that sounds expensive. These are wood chips, arborist wood chips, and I got these I did pay $20. I got this huge mountain. I've used half of them, and we're still here with a giant mountain. But you can get them for free from freechipdrop.com, and you can volunteer to pay them $20 to the people who drop it off to you as sort of a tip. So it might make you get bumped up higher in line, but still, you can sign up for free. All right, so now we're going to talk about my favorite thing about gardening, and that is seeds. So seeds can end up being the most expensive part about gardening, in my opinion, because our eyes get bigger than our pocketbooks and our eyes get bigger than our actual growing space. So we end up buying more than we actually need because everything looks so enticing. But that's why it's really good to have a plan when you're first beginning. And that book that I recommended in the beginning, that Magic Square, she already has some recommended gardening companions to put in that space when you're starting out. So that will help you narrow it down. And I also have good news. You can probably make this free. If you look on Google and type in your local area and say seed banks, you might be able to find multiple ones near you. I happened to stumble upon one this week at my local library.
This was really cool because they allowed families to take 3 different varieties per week. And so if you need free seeds, this is something to look into.
Okay, y'all get a front row seat to my messy back porch with all the dirt and all the gunk, and I've got my seed starts that I've already had going for a couple months now, hardening off, ready to get planted in the garden. Before I got here, I had to start those seeds somehow. Now you can buy little pots like this, and I do sometimes when I'm low on time. But what I did do the first of this garden season, because I did not have a lot of money, is I did buy a bag of seed starter. And this is different because it is made to retain moisture better. So you put it dry into a container, add some water in, and you mix it up to where it's nice and wet like that. Now, what do you do with that then? Then you're going to put it in something to grow. So what I did was I made little pots out of newspaper. And I'll show you some of these that have been around for a while. These have tomatoes grown in them. And see, just like this, these are biodegradable. When you're ready to plant them, you can open up this bottom part. The roots will come out, and you can just put it directly in the ground, or you can unfurl it out of here, whichever you prefer. And the way that I did that was I got a newspaper, and once again, the library is a great resource for free material in your neighborhood. So you can always ask a neighbor, hey, do you have some newspaper? You can get one at the newsstand for about $3 to $4. And you want to cut it into strips like this. and take something round like a pill bottle or some seasoning, and you want to wrap it around to where you've got an edge here hanging off like this. And you wrap it all the way around. And then you're going to fold that edge that was over. You're going to tuck it all the way around until it's nice and tucked in. And then you're going to kind of push it a little bit up like that. And if it feels like it's not going to stay together, which it should, you can always fold over the top just a little bit to kind of crimp it into place. Now what do you do with this? This is going to make a mess if you put this in here, because this is wet. So you want to put this in some kind of waterproof container. What I use is these half-gallon jugs of milk that you might get for, you know, my daughter is lactose intolerant, so lactose-free milk comes like this. Almond milk, all those things come like this, and you just stick it in there. And you can also use a toilet paper roll, and I thought I had brought one out here, but you can do the same exact thing that I did here with this cylinder, and just put some of this down in it and stick it into a container. You can also use a regular milk jug. I use this one to collect blackberries in the summertime, but if you wanted it for gardening purposes, you could just cut it along the edge around here, and then you could probably fit about six to eight of these inside a container. So that way when you're watering it on your windowsill, you don't have to worry about water getting everywhere. And that's the other thing. You want to find a nice light source. So you find a good windowsill. You want to find, if you have like a bench seat in your house that's right next to the window, just open those curtains up and let it get some sunshine. Now, if it's warm like it is now, you could probably start it and just put it on your back porch and see what happens. But it might get kind of hot and toasty on some days. So you want to be a little bit gentle with it coming into the world. Depends on what kind of seed. Now, the most free way to start seeds is to just do what is called direct sow, where you put it directly in the ground and see what happens. Some things are more tender and they need a little bit more babying to get established before they'll just grow nicely like that. Some things like tomatoes I've found are a little bit more finicky. So if I could suggest anything, start your tomatoes in this. And if you're looking for free plant starts, you can always ask around in your neighborhood Facebook groups, specifically gardening groups, and say, hey, I'm looking for some starts. Does anybody have any extras? Offer to pay a little something, maybe $1 per plant, and the gardeners sure would appreciate it. But a lot of times people start way too many things that they just did just in case, and they don't have any room for it, and they don't want it to go to waste, so they'd rather just give it. So don't be afraid to be an asker. If you're familiar with Mo Willems, the pigeon books about the pigeon drives the bus, he says he's the askinest pigeon in town. So don't be afraid to be the askinest pigeon in town when it comes to your neighbors, your friends. People want to see you have a hobby, and I'm sure they would love to have a couple of tomatoes at the end of the season. Now, here is a garden that I have made within the last couple of weeks using the methods that I was teaching you for the 3x3 garden method, where I just literally dug up all the grass in this area and picked out all the grass, as much of the grass roots as I could, and then I covered it all in the wood chips for mulch. And I put this trellis in. This is about $50. I've made a video about this a couple of times, and I've planted some things here that I'm waiting to see if they come up. But this, my dream for this area is to be thick and lush and full of plants. I want to have a tomato forest, a pepper forest, and I'm going to have watermelons and cantaloupes. And so that is my dream. So you'll have to come back in a few months to see if it comes to fruition. But I'm just showing you here that about a week, 2 weeks ago, I did that. I put the mulch down, and I'm not seeing weeds coming up already. In the places that I have seen it come up, I've been able to pull them up real quick, real easy. So that was great for weed suppression and also retaining the moisture here in this earth. Gardening is an ongoing project, as you can see. It starts with a little bit of action and a little bit of a plan and a little bit of education, and then you continue to keep going and keep it moving until it turns into what you had always dreamed of. Now, I hope that you take some of this advice and really just get to work. Don't stay in the education phase for eternity. Just get into the doing phase and start digging and planting and having something delicious and beautiful to look at that you accomplished this summer. Don't be left out. Don't be looking in August to start it. Start it right now. You guys have a wonderful day, and I hope that you guys get out there and do this as cheaply and as free as you possibly can.